grand ballroom shimmered beneath enormous crystal chandeliers, their golden light reflecting off polished marble floors and sparkling glasses of champagne. Soft classical music floated through the air, while the city's most powerful
to good friends and great
business
times.
figures mingled
Cheers
in
to that.
elegant gowns
And to many
and
more.
tailored tuxedos
Here.
and to many more. Every corner of the hall radiated wealth, influence, and prestige. Near the tall glass entrance door stood Sofia Morales. She felt slightly out of place, even though she looked nothing like the quiet office assistant everyone knew tonight. She wore a deep midnight blue gown that flowed gracefully to the floor. The fabric hugged her frame perfectly, simple yet breathtaking. Her hair, usually tied in a neat bun at work, cascaded softly over her shoulders. A touch of makeup highlighted her natural beauty, not to transform her, but to reveal what had always been there. She barely recognized herself. "Nobody recognizes me dressed like this," she whispered under her breath, clutching her small silver purse for 3 years. Sofia had worked as a personal assistant to Daniel Rivera, the CEO of Rivera Holdings. She was efficient, punctual, and incredibly organized. She prepared his presentations, managed his schedule, handled crises before they escalated, and often stayed late without complaint. Yet in the office she blended into the background. Neutral clothes, minimal conversation, always professional and visible. When the invitation to the annual corporate gala arrived at her desk, she assumed it was a mistake. Assistants didn't attend events like this. These galas were for executives, investors, and elite guests. But Daniel himself had told her that morning, without looking up from his laptop, "You've worked hard this year. You should come." His tone had been casual, almost distracted still. She came now, standing among glittering strangers. Sofia watched groups of elegantly dressed women laugh confidently, as if they belonged to this world. She felt her old insecurities creeping in. She wasn't born into wealth. She hadn't attended prestigious universities abroad. She had earned everything through scholarships, sleepless nights, and determination. A waiter passed by with a tray of sparkling drinks. Sofia took one carefully, hoping it would calm the nervous flutter in her chest. Across the room she could see Daniel surrounded by investors. He looked exactly as he always did, sharp black tuxedo, perfectly styled hair commanding presence. People leaned in when he spoke. They admired him. He hadn't seen her yet. Part of her was relieved, another part, one she didn't fully understand, felt disappointed. She stepped further into the hall, her heels clicking softly against the marble floor. A few guests glanced at her with polite curiosity, but none recognized her as the quiet assistant who carried folders behind the CEO every morning. For the first time in years, she wasn't just the assistant. She was simply Sofia, and tonight, she had promised herself one thing. She would not hide in the shadows. She lifted her chin slightly, taking a slow breath. What she didn't realize was that, from across the glittering ballroom, a pair of sharp eyes had just noticed the mysterious woman in blue, and those eyes belonged to her boss. Daniel Rivera had attended countless galas like this before.
To him, they were predictable, firm handshakes, strategic smiles, rehearsed compliments, and endless conversations about numbers and future expansions. He stood confidently among investors, discussing upcoming international projects, his voice calm and authoritative. Yet tonight, something felt different. As he accepted a glass of champagne from a passing waiter, his gaze drifted across the ballroom out of habit. That was when he saw her. A woman in a midnight blue gown stood near the grand staircase, her posture graceful, her expression thoughtful. She wasn't laughing loudly like the others or desperately trying to impress anyone. She carried herself with quiet elegance. Daniel narrowed his eyes slightly. There was something familiar about her. He tried to return his focus to the conversation in front of him, but his attention kept slipping back to the mysterious woman. The way she tucked a strand of hair behind her ear. The way she listened attentively to an older guest speaking beside her. The calm intelligence in her eyes. It stirred something in him, curiosity, perhaps even admiration. "Excuse me for a moment," Daniel said politely to the investors, offering a brief nod before stepping away. With each step toward her, his heartbeat quickened, though he didn't understand why. He was used to being in control of meetings, negotiations, and even emotions. But this unfamiliar pull unsettled him. As he approached, the woman turned slightly, and the light caught her face clearly. He froze. "Sofia," he said, disbelief slipping into his usually composed voice. She turned fully now, her eyes widening slightly when she saw him standing there. "Good evening, Mr. Rivera," she replied, her tone respectful but steady. For a brief moment, he couldn't find words. This was the same Sofia who quietly organized his files every morning. The same Sofia who reminded him of appointments and corrected his presentation slides at midnight. The same Sofia he had seen almost every day for 3 years. But tonight, she looked entirely different. No, he realized, it wasn't that she looked different. He had simply never truly looked at her before. "You look different," he finally said, though the words felt inadequate. A small, knowing smile touched her lips. "No one recognizes me dressed like this," she said softly. Her whisper carried a mixture of humor and hidden truth. Daniel felt a sudden pang of guilt. Had he really overlooked her all this time? He had always valued her work, trusted her efficiency, relied on her presence. But he had never stopped to see the woman behind the professionalism. "I recognize you," he said quietly, his voice lower now, more sincere. Their eyes met, and the noise of the ballroom seemed to fade into the background. For the first time, he wasn't looking at her as his assistant. He was seeing her as a woman, confident, intelligent, unexpectedly captivating. "You should have told me you clean up this well," he added, attempting a light tone, though his gaze remained intense. She raised an eyebrow playfully. "You never asked." That simple answer struck him harder than any accusation. Around them, whispers began. A few employees had noticed their CEO standing unusually close to his assistant. The sight alone was enough to spark curiosity. But Daniel didn't step back. Instead, he found himself wondering how much more he had missed about her. And for the first time in years, the powerful CEO felt something unfamiliar, nervousness. The music shifted into a softer melody, violins blending gently with the low hum of conversation. Around them, the gala continued in glittering motion, but for Daniel and Sofia, the world seemed to narrow into a quiet, suspended moment. Daniel studied her more carefully now. "How long have you been hiding this from us?" he asked, his voice quieter than usual. Sofia tilted her head slightly. "Hiding what, Mr. Rivera?" "This," he said, gesturing subtly toward her, not just the dress, but her confidence, her calm presence. A faint smile touched her lips. "I wasn't hiding. I was working." The simplicity of her answer struck him again. For 3 years, she had been the first person in the office and often the last to leave. She had handled angry clients with grace, fixed scheduling disasters, and even covered for his forgotten meetings without ever asking for credit. He had praised her efficiency countless times, but never her strength. "I owe you more appreciation than I've given," he admitted. "You've always respected my work," she replied gently. "That was enough for me." But was it? Daniel wondered. He suddenly realized how little he truly knew about her. He didn't know her favorite color, what she did on weekends, or what dreams she had beyond the office walls. She had existed in his world as a function, not as a person. And tonight, that illusion had shattered. A slow song began to play, couples gradually moving toward the dance floor. Laughter softened into romance as the lights dimmed slightly. Without fully thinking it through, Daniel extended his hand. "May I have this dance?" he asked. For a split second, surprise flickered across Sofia's face. She could already feel curious eyes watching them. Employees, executives, gossip waiting to happen. This was risky. She had worked hard to build her reputation. She didn't want whispers to define her success. "You don't have to," he added quickly, sensing her hesitation. But then she looked at his hand again, not at the CEO's authority, but at the sincerity in his eyes. For once, he wasn't commanding. He was asking. Sofia placed her hand in his. The ballroom seemed to inhale collectively as they stepped onto the dance floor. Murmurs rippled through nearby guests. The powerful CEO dancing with his humble assistant. It was unexpected, almost scandalous. Daniel gently guided her into rhythm. To his surprise, she moved gracefully, perfectly in sync with the music. "You're full of surprises," he said quietly. "There's a lot people don't see when they don't look closely," she replied. Her words carried no bitterness, only truth. As they danced, something shifted between them. It wasn't just attraction, it was recognition. Respect, awareness. Daniel realized that leadership wasn't only about seeing numbers and strategies, it was about seeing people. And Sofia realized that sometimes, stepping out of the shadows didn't mean changing who you are. It simply meant allowing yourself to be seen. When the song ended, applause echoed lightly around the room. But Daniel didn't immediately release her hand. For the first time, he wasn't thinking about business deals or investor opinions. He was thinking about the woman standing in front of him. And he knew one thing with certainty. Sofia was never, just, his assistant. And after tonight, he would never see her that way again.